coração pulsando, uma mente criativa, propósito e visão de futuro? Ou nossas conexões? Conectados, podemos aprender, colaborar e construir confiança, sempre com transparência e respeito para fortalecer as conexões que importam, as conexões humanas. Com protagonismo e atitude positiva, assumimos genuinamente a responsabilidade por nossas decisões com leveza e entusiasmo. Esse é o nosso jeito de ser, fortalecendo com empatia, escutativa e inclusão a cada decisão tomada. Valorizamos a diversidade, promovemos inclusão e ouvimos as múltiplas vozes da nossa time. Conectamos o poder dessa pluralidade com inovação e tecnologia para potencializar cada vez mais o desenvolvimento socioambiental sustentável no nosso país. Com esse compromisso, superamos barreiras e vamos além, nos desafiando e nos adaptando com rapidez e qualidade para entregar liberdade com soluções criativas, inovadoras e experiências excepcionais, surpreendendo os nossos clientes. Essa é a nossa maior motivação. Pensamos grande e entregamos soluções criativas e inovadoras que nos colocam sempre à frente e transformam a sociedade e o meio ambiente. Temos coragem para ousar e antecipar as tendências. Trabalhamos todos os dias para ir além, inspirados por um propósito potente e impactante. Evoluir juntos, com respeito e coragem, transformando tecnologia em liberdade. Sim, podemos nos orgulhar. Estamos construindo a organização do futuro e fazendo a diferença na vida das pessoas e do meio ambiente. E a cada dia, nos aproximando ainda mais da ambição de sermos a operadora preferida do Brasil.
Boa tarde, gente. Nossa, que
Good evening. What a wonderful video to start such a special day. I'm very happy because it's the first time that I'm presenting in this circular stage, a kind of an arena. So for the ones that don't know me, I am Mari Palma. I'm a journalist, a CNN reporter today, and I'm very glad to be here in this team talks, and we have been preparing for being here. In our meeting, we saw the passion that people that work at team have for this event. It's an event to talk about proposals to transform the future. It's a very special day. In a while, we're going to share the agenda with you, the program, and we also have all the people that are watching us online. We have a lot of people that is here on the events venue, but we also have people online. So in this camera, hello for you that are watching us online. We are going to talk a little bit more. So before going on, I'm going to have our audio description. So as I'm a white woman, I have brown eyes, I have brown hair, and at this moment I'm wearing a whole white set of clothes, a pair of pants, and a jacket. And today is our opening event, but we have a whole program ahead of us. Team Talks have actions that go up to the end of October. So each day we're going to have 2 or 3 actions in the morning and in the afternoon, bringing some reflections on how team has ability working with technology to work and to support the environment. We saw in the video some of the presentation of what team has been doing. So we are live directly from, I'm going to ask for help to the ones that are from Rio de Janeiro. We call it here, it's called EXC, but also X. How do you call it, people from Rio? Okay, is it EXC? Okay, so I'm from São Paulo, so I'm not going to dare to say something that I don't know. So we are in the XC in the Jockey Club. So it's a place that when we arrive, we already are willing to think a little bit out of the box. It's a perfect place to have the event, our Team Talks experience. So today's a special day. We are connected to thousands of people and also to the whole society, because this is so nice. We're talking about an event for teams, collaborators, but also for many people. So I'd like to thank Tim, because it's the first time that my mother watches an event that I presented. She's watching from YouTube, so I guess to my mother, because she never understands what I do, so I'm going to explain her a little bit of my work. And also, I'd like to congratulate all the ones that are watching us in our YouTube channel, the ones that are sending messages. During the day, I'm going to read some of the messages that you are going to send through there. So here we have all the persons, 300 persons here with us to feel this energy. In the previous years, it's good to remember the importance of the team talks. In the previous years, we saw that development never stops. We connect what we can. We imagine the possibilities and future, and we generate connection that transforms. In 2023, this year, today, we're going to talk about proposal to transform the future. So we brought an incredible team to share our day, our guests. They are going to provoke us, to make us reflect about many topics, about the role of the companies in the social, environmental development of the country, possibilities for the future, technology, innovation, and many more. So I like to show on our screen our team that we're going to have today. So we are going to start with Alberto Griselli from Team Brazil, and then we have Maria Antonietta with also Team Brazil, Lala Deheinzelin, futurist, international, and also specialized in new economies, and also Camila Ribeiro, communication director, Team Brazil, Marcos Nakagawa, specialized in sustainability and environment, Mari Castro, designer of connection, partnership, and master in law and international law. It's going to share our opening of the Team Talk experience. We have our program up to the end of October. So is everybody ready? Let's start. I'm going to call on the stage President of Team Brazil, Alberto Griselli. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, good afternoon. This stage is challenging. I think that 2 years ago it was from here to there, and the last convention was the parallel ways, the parallel places. And now we have this circular. It's a pleasure to be here. That's my second edition as CEO of the Team Brazil. And I thought the title of this year's edition, very inspiring and beautiful, proposals that transform the future. So this is my first slide, because we are the proposal of Team Brazil. There's a lot of connection to transform the future, right? And it includes a lot of aspects that I'd like to summarize in the next 15 minutes. So to evolve together with respect, encourage transforming technology in freedom, and this proposal in reality. The ingredients are not so many. Proposal, strategy, personnel, culture, together, all of them, and transforming something that is differential. This is our challenge as an executive. Everyone that is here, our collaborators. So now the next page to help me on my presentation is that these are the pillars of the next generation, okay? I'm talking about the pillars. These 5 pillars, they represent business ambition, where person, society, and environment is completely integrated. So I'm going to focus more in the 5th aspect. Okay, people, society, and environment. And also we are going to talk about the ambition that we have related to the main pillars of the next generation team. So we have talked, it's constant. We wish to reach the leadership, being the favorite operator in mobile operations, okay? So it appears here in a very, when we have here, the word B2B. It's what we are doing, and we're going to see more detail in our next management meeting. It's a B2B with to change the future with Team Brazil's approach, which is mobile-eccentric, and that leverage some of the aspects of this in Brazil and some other industrial sectors in Brazil. And the third element, of course, is the width band. Okay, so we have a percentage of the market share, and there's a lot of opportunity to capture new ones. And in the last year, we've been refining our business model, and we are ready to capture this demand. But the market context, this context of the width band, it's a market that's not particularly attractive, where you have to try to grow with profitability. So we're navigating in a speed of expansion of 10% in the conditions of the current market. This is the speed that we can maintain. To accelerate, we have to wait for better times. And at the end, the efficiency is a word that afterwards we're going to talk a little bit more. Sustainability, economical sustainability of the business, and the correct relocation of capital in the initiatives that generates more value to all the actors. So capital allocation, to spend, but to spend well. And at last, the central part of our conversation is people, society, and environment. And that's where I'm going to dive a little bit more, because it's related to our proposal, and I'm going to try to touch also what is up integrates to what is down, and vice versa. Okay, so people. Okay, to differentiate number one of our company, since without any doubt. And the challenge is to attract people with the competence that we need and to keep these persons. Okay, this is a topic that could be relatively simple. Okay, the personnel is happy in our company. It feels useful. You arrive at work and you enjoy what you do. You work with a group that share the same values. You feel comfortable. So this feeling, and to have the possibility to grow professionally and personally, to be acknowledged by the work, okay, for the work that you do. Seems very simple, but I think that it's one of the greatest challenges that we have as executives and that we face every day to make this equation work well. And there are many elements that we are trying to mold recently that has to do with the proposal of the work that we do. And a strategy, a very challenging one, we're saying, okay, we want to be the favorite operator, so to know the data, we have a lot of challenges. There are many positions to recover, to mold the B2B market, and to have a strategy, an elevated ambition. And then we have some elements related to the values and the culture. So 1 year ago, we had a workshop. Okay, we have so team and 1 and 2 to build our ambition and strategy and to activate a cultural exchange that, of course, started on the top and then included many more people. So, and then it was born our 101 client in the first place, zero barriers, and U.S. protagonist. And also this effort that is being coordinated by all the executives. And we have a lot of values that are the values that we believe in. It's a team that thinks big, a team that goes after the protagonism and the importance. And so we faced a very complicated challenge in the companies because a cultural transformation is not simple. So in my opinion, and then we can make an evaluation that it's not self-referential, I think that this 101, it worked very well, and it's helping a lot to crystallize the company's culture. And at the end, the third element is the acknowledgement. Okay, acknowledgement has to do with the policies the more related, of course, to the salaries, to the benefits that we are working to make everyone a little bit happier. And of course, the acknowledgement of the work, the contribution of each of us to the proposal and to the strategy of the company. And when we see the changes that we did, that we made, the strategy, key projects, managerial meeting, there are so many things that really connect to strengthen this strategy, culture and values, and alignment of goals is a challenge that, in my vision, is the biggest that I, as president, I am facing. And also the senior team, they think in the same way because it has to do with managing people. So how do we assess the results up to now? Okay, internal evaluation, external evaluation. How we see ourselves and how the world sees us. So we have done a lot. So we have an internal evaluation assessment, 96% of favorability. 90% of engagement. What are we doing is resonating in our team, okay, among our team. I think this is a good result. One of the things that make me more proud of the work that I'm now sharing with you. So external impression, external look. It's a little bit more difficult. So going backwards in telecommunication, sometimes we have this spirit, okay, the neighbor's grass is evergreen, it's always greener. Yes. So in the telecommunications world, but you have Google, etc. It's very difficult to attract talent because there are some industrial sectors that maybe they are more attractive. So it's a conversation that we had. So this work, strategy, culture, in a certain point, I think 2 years ago, we managed to get into the great. Okay, we got so we have only Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is a small place. Okay, so we started a great place to work in Rio de Janeiro. Great place to work. External acknowledgement. So this year we got again is the seal. In Rio de Janeiro, we passed from the 7th to the 4th position. Nice work. And then we got to the category of the 150 companies, the best in Brazil. 150 best in Brazil. So all of them, 150 companies. So we are one of the biggest companies in Brazil. To get into the 150 is a good result. 150 companies. Last night, we received our position. So we are the company number 12, the 12th company, best company to work in Brazil, in the 12th position. So congratulations to all of us that made this happen, because of course the external evaluation depends on the internal evaluation. So we are happy to work here, and then it spreads the news all over. So we are having an internal acknowledgement of all our collaborators and an external acknowledgement where we came from nothing to the 12th position. This is so important for us, how much effort we are all putting to retain and attract the necessary talent to implement our strategy. So looking a little bit more ahead, okay, we got to the 12th position. We still have something to go, something ahead of us to get to the first position. So we have to consolidate our position, of course, clearly, and we have to make a great effort to put in the company the competences necessary for the next generation team. The world is dynamic. We have some competences, our masters, but there are others that we really have to strengthen the digital, the care of the data, artificial intelligence, the B2B world. We have to mold the future. We are essentially a company for the consumer. We want to get into the B2B world. We have a lot of competences to grow. So this is something that is in our agenda, which is fundamental for our strategy. And clearly, we have a composition between the competences that we get from the market and the competences that we build internally. So here we're going to tell a story regarding a research of Leo and Wana regarding the chief of the artificial intelligence. The chief of artificial intelligence is a very nice position, very cool, strategical, transversal, coordinate all the business area with the technologies, the implementation of the artificial intelligence in the company. A while ago they told me, okay, competence, what are we going to choose? I said, I don't know. You decide. I see it this way. Competence is going to be difficult to find in the market because competence in artificial intelligence is not something that it's abundant right now. So we're going to get a person that has the will to do it, and a person that believes in the values that are important to us and the competence we build. We are a company we work with the best consultants. We work with the best partners in the world. We can send each of us to the best courses around the world. If there's someone that really wants to do, he's going to learn. So we managed to do what I said at the beginning. You have a team that wants to grow professionally inside of our company, and we give the opportunities for this to happen. We have a spectacular team. So artificial intelligence, we are going to compose the team, but let's prepare our team. Let's appreciate values, attitude, and the competences we can build. Okay? So this is the chapter personnel, the person. That's the element number one of this lower part here. And then society. Society has an infinity of relations with our proposal to transform technology in freedom. But what is nice in this story? What is nice in this story is that we are managing, willing or not, to make it happen. Inside the business, we are doing, and this thing is permeating our business. We have a point of advantage in the society. Our core business is the enabler of many things that we can offer and that other companies can offer over our network. So we are the biggest in 5G in Brazil. We have the biggest cover in the rural area in Brazil. So within 10 years, for 10 years, our competitors had this attribute, and we won from them last year. So now we have something in our hands that we didn't have. This is number one. And then we are going to see the services that we put on this. So making money, generating value to our stockholders. And then we have, Renato is here. We had financial inclusion of millions of Brazilians that didn't have a digital account. And we transformed and we brought this group and included them financially. So we are innovating business, managing to generate value to our stockholders. And there are two other things that fit here that has to do with digital service. It has to do with education, and of course, jobs, generating jobs. And also another thing that we we have a project to popularize the health system. 60% of the population in Brazil don't have access to a health plan, to a health insurance. They go to SUS, which is the public health system. So we have a project to popularize this possibility for 160 million that don't access this service. Oh, this is technology and freedom. This is an incredible impact in society. So we managed to include financially millions of people. So we are in the beginning, but the ambition is the same. We thought this partnership with Gerando Falcões, and we have the Digital Slums Project. Okay, so we have a coverage there, and this, of course, these slums, they have a relevant part of the GDP in Brazil. So we attain a percentage of a population in Brazil, which is very important. So we launched a social product, which is each client, Team Black, is including the cost of Gerando Falcões. So it's money that we transfer to have a productive inclusion. Productive inclusion and contribution in the houses, in the homes, with a positive impact of our society is a value that a part of our clients consider important. So to manage to turn business in something positive for our business and a positive impact for the society. This is the practical translation of technology and freedom.
A while ago, all these talks were within the corporate environment. Now it's starting to distillate within the value proposal that we increase. That was the world before. Now let's talk about the B2C. Now we'll talk about the second business. When we take our coverage to the rural areas in the agribusiness, we include millions of people digitally and socially, schools, health stations, and we help not only to do that ourselves, but we help our clients in implementing the purpose that they have. They use our technology to carry out their purpose and achieve it to new people and new systems. The same thing to vertical technologies. So we are actually putting the theme of society not as a counterpoint to our business, but to be actually able to combine both things, have a differentiation of our business and have contact with society. The last item, and we are in the general part of my presentation, has to do with the environment. This is a very important pillar. In the environment, we are enablers for ourselves. Years ago, we reached 10% of renewable energy, and we were implementing a number of plants, and we'll reach 130 next year. 100% of our energy is a renewable one, and we have transformed the management meeting. And one of the solutions that the verticals of the B2B has made is that we're taking this to our clients, the project in Curitiba, to migrate to a renewable matrix that is and with economy, with savings for us. When we move on to the smart agribusiness, we work with our clients and we're able to reduce it 80% to 60% their energy use. So not only do we do that for ourselves, so there is a verticality of our environment, but we also create solutions for our clients to use our technology to achieve the same goals. So this category of persons, people, society, environment, leading us to materialize the business. We were able to achieve several steps, and we'll do others after many years flowing in a natural way. we were able to give a differential to our strategy when we talk to people. So these were my observations, and with regard to ESG. Now I invite you to enjoy these next few days and to actually make use of the interactions we'll have here, reminding you that last year we had 2 partners working with us in Team Talks last year. We met Edu Lira, and he is now participating in several things that we are doing today. It's a very good partnership that is growing, that is good for his purpose and ours. And we also had Rachel Mayer, with whom we're working on a program of Black Pearls. This is a corporation, and we have achieved also recognition from the diversity standpoints, and we think about this as included in our values. We are the most inclusive telecommunications agency in the world, and there are 4 in the world, and we are one of those. But we can do better, so we have achieved 36% of women that are part of our leadership next year. And for the presentation of Black people and the leadership, we have 20%, which is a high point of highlight. And we have the Black Pearls that helped us elevate the gold standards and will give a further step in this journey towards inclusion, diversity, and not only changing the internal reality, but also in the recognition of our clients to our present. So thank you very much, and enjoy your next few days.
Obrigada, Alberto. Obrigada mesmo.
Thank you very much,
deu pra ver, né, pelo
Alberto.
começo já que a
You
gente
could
realmente vai ter
see
um dia
since
bem
the beginning
especial.
that we'll have a
O
very
Alberto
special
dividiu aqui
day,
algumas conquistas,
and
né, da
Alberto
TIM, todo mundo
shared
aplaudiu.
some achievements
não
from
só todo
team,
mundo
and
que tá
everyone
aqui
liked them and
aplaudiu, eu tava dando uma
applauded them.
olhadinha enquanto o
But I
Alberto
was
tava
having a
falando
look
aqui, né, no
at
nosso
the
chat do YouTube, pra você
chat
que tá
in
aí
YouTube
assistindo
for those who
online.
are following
Gustavo
us
disse excelente
online.
notícia, a Carol
And
Raquel, que
Gustavo
orgulho, Thiago
said
Diniz,
it was
parabéns pra
great
nós, e muita
news,
gente
and
dando
I
aqui.
say
Boa tarde também
congratulations,
acompanhando
good
com a gente. A gente
afternoon.
tá aqui, mas também tá
Also
aí com
working
vocês.
with
Bom,
you and
vamos continuar
following you
então. Tem muita coisa pela
online.
frente.
So
Agora a
let's
gente
move
recebe aqui
on.
no palco a
We
vice-presidente de
are going
Pessoas,
to
Cultura e
welcome now the
Organização da
Vice
TIM
President
Brasil, a Maria Antonietta
of
Russo.
Persons in Brazil, of HR in Brazil, Maria Antonietta Russo. Good afternoon, and we are going to challenge, talk to all people here, the people connected to Team Brazil and to society. I'll do as Alberto did. I make use of these stand here to look you in the eyes, as well as looking at those who are connected. And first, I will do my work to be inclusive. I have my hair is loose. I'm well made up. I'm wearing a dress, long dress. This one I chose green, the color of hope, that fits the color of the place. And jokes apart, I'm very happy. This is my 4th participation, when I had the first emotion of opening up Team Talks. Each year is a new challenge, is different, and I didn't know if this year we would have been able to do the Team Talks, because we have many challenges. We are throughout this work of cultural evolution. We have a huge production on the development of culture. So I would like first to thank the team who worked with us day and night, on weekends, and early on the day, late at night, to help us. Yesterday I was in São Paulo, as Alberto was saying, and it was a huge emotion to receive that award. And you don't know how important it is in the relationship. So each number in the ranking, you do yes! And yes, it is so important. And this have the 12th place. It's not the goal. It's just one step in the middle for us, but it's important because it's the recognition given to all our teams, everyone. Thank you for this recognition. Now, Alberto talked a lot about our purpose, and I would like to share it with you. We have here this purpose. Every time that I'm going to read that, I think, oh my gosh, so much responsibility, because each word is so weighty, and evolving together is quite a challenge with respect and daring and courage and changing technology in freedom. So it's a lifetime, it's a principle, it's a value, and it's such a beautiful purpose that this was imagined with Roberto Mari in 2020, and after many years, it goes on, and we have reinforced that work. It's still worth it, and it relates perfectly with the claim of this year, which is the purpose that wants to change the future, because it comprehends something very important. But within this definition of this purpose, we have the ESG principle. And I was thinking about ESG. This is something that everyone knows about, but after the pandemic, it became a real golden standard. We talk about ESG, we have an ESG agenda, a ESG program. All this topic has a very long story has been in existence for many years, and this is extremely important matter. And to get this talk ready, when I was invite our guest, what can I tell people? What can I tell about ESG that's new? ESG, certainly to be a company, yes, an ESG company as we want to be. No, it's not a new strategy that is parallel to the strategy. It's within the strategy. And I'm not going to talk too much because I think Alberto's presentation was very clear on that, how we intend to be an ESG company, because it's part of the company. It's not an agenda that belongs to me or Mario or anyone in particular. It is within a chapter of our life. It's part of our activities in the day-to-day, our business in the day-to-day. And it does not take place from one day to the other. ESG is one of the few things that you cannot say, oh, today I will be an ESG. And we need perseverance, coherence, and purpose. And everything of this is the recognition that we are receiving. We're not also built from one day to the other. I don't know from what part of the world it comes, but we're trying to reinforce it, strengthen it, include it in our purpose. To do that, we need credibility. To create an agenda that will be believable in the internal and external market is something that has to be built, and it's an evolving route. And it's extremely intentional and important because it's connected to intentionality. And I cannot say to someone, you have to be ESG. You have to be ESG, because that means having a value, believing in social or environmental purposes. So it means you want to be ESG. Being an ESG company, it means that you want to be a company that will take care of the business because it believes in the technology innovation we bring an advantage to the ecosystem or to the world, either personal or in the social level. And it has to do with collective values and also individual values. And especially, it's not just the how. We always imagine what cool projects are we going to do to be like that? What project can be important for ESG? And we're always worried about the how to do it, but the first question that an ESG company asks is why? Why do I want to be an ESG company? Why? Why, as a company, do I want, as a company, that all my collaborators, all my partners, to be ESG? And this is the true question. This is a change, a shift in attitudes and values. So the first thing that we are summarizing, we can say it's a matter of culture. It's a mindset. And culture is connected to purpose, to values, to attitudes, to behaviors, to culture, until we reach strategy that we like to call ESG by design. That includes ESG as a principle, as a value within all this. This is why we're here, because it's a true challenge, because the true challenge indeed is to mobilize people. Why? Because an ESG agenda is an agenda of individual evolution, because we need to see competence in all different boards, but it has to connect with individual purposes. But the more stronger, the more part this purpose is for the individual, the more this evolution will take place. And you cannot impose it. You cannot force people. It's something in which people have to believe. So when you have this individual purpose, you will have this evolution. And you'll have more credibility automatically in the market. And technology, increasingly, as a company like ours, can lead to great evolutions in the social and individual standpoint. And we have a very important lever there. It's not an ESG agenda cannot happen. Another factor for the success of the ESG purpose is the participation of people. Helping people build this agenda, listening to people is as important as technology. So we have these two important aspects, technology and people. If we base ourselves on only one, it won't work. So we have great challenges to face. And one of the challenges is to make both work together. How to use technology and how do I involve people? Because this is a commitment. First, we have a great responsibility on the part of the company. And in this case, my responsibility fits because of the role I play, because especially it's in my hand to lead. And it also starts with the participation of collaborators. You cannot do something in which you give a sustainable agenda to people inside the company. So we have to think about the development of people, and so that the development of these people can lead to self-sustainability for people. Because it's not just a responsibility on the part of the company. It would be easy to think that it is a huge responsibility on people. And this is why you require protagonism on the part of people. And within these values, one of the most important is to be a protagonist. This leads you to make a difference. Each small step can lead to a great transformation. So the ESG agenda has two versions, one for the company and one for people. You bring them together, they work parallelly, and you have a collective and individual purpose that will lead to that. And we want this year
from this coherence among these beautiful values that we have here, the discourse of the coherence and the practice, because there's something fundamental in creating this credibility, which is the coherence and perseverance. So we can say that the crucial topic of this agenda of the events this year, the webinars, the presentations to connect values, culture, and our actions to demonstrate that through a value that is expressed, through a behavior, we can make it happen, this change. So taking into consideration all the feedback that we received at the end of the team talk last year, we thought about changing the format and the structure. Team Brazil is a big company present also in the regionals. Many people from the regional asked us to have also local and presential events. So this year, we had in these 2 weeks of program, we're going to have presential actions in the regionals, giving protagonism to the colleagues and collaborators that are in the regionals. And we're going to have more than 27 actions. Each day, we're going to have 2 from 3 actions and 17 actions for the society. So that we open to the external context to have insights to continue evolve. So each day is going to be dedicated to a value. Each value is going to be connected to our themes. We're going to have 3 days for the Think Big. We're going to dedicate to the collectivity, sustainable works, health and education. And each today, we are going to have to one of my colleagues, which serves with external guests of the institutional educational world, other companies. They are going to debate and bring reflections about the topics. And we're going to have the opportunity to check how each value is connecting to the topic that we as a company, we are trying to make the difference in people's lives. So also we're going to have with the client webinars and presentations about the client experience opportunity of 5G and artificial intelligence. And then we're going to build the trust. Building the trust, we're going to have discussion and reflection about the power of the telecoms and also the digital. That is very important. Be protagonist. We're going to have a wide agenda talking about gender equity, career, and empowerment of women. That will be led by Senara. And promoting the inclusion, we're going to have presentation about longevity, being inclusive also with the people that are more senior. And as Alberto was saying, we're going to have presentations about career accelerations about LGBT and Black population. And also super barriers that overcome the barriers. We are going to talk about organizational agility and inclusion and diversity. So all this agenda is going to be connected concretely with our values of Team Brazil, and with things that as team we're trying to do for the external society, bringing also other insights of the external market to see how we can evolve even more. And the program is very big, and it's going to be available to all of you. Everything is connected, and it's going to be transmitted through YouTube. It's in the program, a very big program, so please write in your agenda these opportunities, the presential and the online ones. Just to conclude, everyone knows that I like that each team talk to choose a sentence that can inspire us. And the sentence that I chose say this: people, they don't choose or buy what a company does, but why the company does. It must be a cause, a proposal. Simon Simek, Team Talks, a wonderful Team Talks 2023 to all of you. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maria Antonietta, wonderful. What a great energy. Everyone applauded. Very good. I was reading here the comments that we received through YouTube, but also we have an internal hot site of the Team Talks, and there are a lot of people sending messages. So I'm going to start with you, William, Nivea Maria, top company, Ricardo, proud, I'm very proud, Simone, the 12th company, best company to work in Brazil, talking about what Alberto was telling us, Rafaela talking about environment. It's so good to have you all following us. So let's continue. Now we are going to receive another special guest here in our stage that's going to bring a little bit of her story and how she's been studying about building futures. She is associated to the World Future Society that gave her the title of futurist. And then she became one of the founders of the Future Studies Nucleo of PUC São Paulo, part of the new United Nations Millennium Project. She is the assessor of Sebrae Nacional, and she arrived in the ONU system as a special counselor of projects related to creative economy, culture, and development. And she's been following this in the four corners of the world. She's a pioneer in Brazil. In 2008, she founded a movement, Create Futures, centered in social cultural perspectives, and this was presented as an innovation case. Meetings towards future and innovation in the United States, Mexico, Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, and others. Since 2014, she's been systematizing this knowledge in a process management system for the change of models in the 21st century, methodologies based in future studies and 4 new economies: creative, shared, collaborative, multi-currency. And she named Fluxonomy 3D. She illuminates paths, inspire, and shows us that knowledge is the seed for a desirable future. Lala Deheinzelin. Lala Deheinzelin. Okay, stay with me. I'm gonna stay with you. Mari, this is one of the best presentation that I had in my life. Thank you, thank you. I just read, but I got the credit. So I'm going to ask you to stay here because of this, because Maria Antonietta has just said everything depends on the mobilization of people. So let's start from this. Please wake up, stand up, wake up, no, stand up. And everyone with the right shoulder pointing the center. Right shoulder pointing the center. Now I'm going to use a technology. Let's see if it works. Future has to do with care. It's the word that has more to do with the future. And as Roberta said, everything depends on people. So let's warm our hands and let's start by taking off the load from the shoulders of your colleague beside you. Very good. Take it. Now, energy, because we still have a lot of work ahead of us. People from home, you can do it, okay? The other side. To the other side. Turn to the other colleague. Now the other colleague. A very important moment. Now, just to, like work and scratch and also touch the ego of your colleague. Shine the ego of your colleague. And now exorcism. Show, get out, tiredness, fear of changes. Off that negativity. Of course it's going to work. That's it. Now we can work. Very good. Thank you very much. I just loved it. It wasn't in the script, but I just loved it. Great. Very good. So let's go. First thing is, what is a futurist? A futurist does what you can see. We look at the egg and we see the bird. But the issue here is that we learn to be afraid of the future. Now do something to me. Think about your grandparents. Mine were Italian. and think if your life has gotten better or worse. If your life got worse, raise your hand. No hand raised. No hands raised. We are afraid of the future, but the future gets better, even if we have to face difficult moments, because everything that is born in a difficult way. It's ours to give birth. So the main issue is to understand that at this moment, for the first time in the history of humanity, we have knowledge, technology, resources, and people to create a desirable future and do everything that we desire now. So let's see how is it possible. First of all, it's very important that we create futures because we really seed the future with what we dream about. So see how interesting. We have people from home here in our screen. That's how we have the first faxes, the first printers. We have GPS, Wi-Fi, ROMs, and this is the date, 1929. So I'd like to promise me something. Raise your hand and try to stretch and promise that when you're going to think about the future, it's going to be a little bit crazy, as it was this image in 1929 when it was created. If it's not crazy, it doesn't serve for the future. And how are the futures? What kinds of futures? In general, we are searching for a probable future, tendency, trends. But we cannot predict the future precisely. And when we say that what is probable, we work more in a palliative way, saying what we don't want. So the question is, we have to go to the desirable futures to see what we want and the reasons, the whys. And we get to another field, which is the possible futures, where we have a preventive work. In the middle of this, we have the space of possibilities of creation. So we are going beyond the probable. We are going to work with the desirable for the common good, and also for this future to be possible. It seems obvious, but it's not. During history, many times there were mistakes in imagining the future. That's in 1876. The telephone is complicated, so complicated to become a means of communication. That's the president of the Western Union that delivered the message by horse. So this also about the television. Television is not going to last because people are going to be tired to be in front of a TV. Hollywood producer two Fox that wanted to get involved with the TV. So we need to be a little bit futurist at this moment. As in a moment in history, the problem was the functional illiteracy. Now the challenge is to be literate in futures. So what I prepared for you is a series of lenses of some of the characteristics and strengths that the future has, so as to look at things using these futurist lenses. I'm not going to talk about trends. I'm not going to give examples about technology. I'm going to share these lenses that see how the future is being designed. So the first thing that it's important to know, if you are afraid or if you are a little bit lost or a little bit confused, we all are, because really we're living one of the greatest transition of our history. So if from one side we have time, more connectivity, more scale, more impact, so how is our history? We took hundreds of thousands of years as collectors, in some thousands of years in agriculture, some centuries having commerce, trade as a biggest activity, and then industry, some decades in the digital, and some years in the virtual. So you can see it's more fast speed that we have ever seen, with a scale and an impact that we have never seen before. So I started in a very optimistic way, saying that for the first time we have everything to have the desirable and possible future. That's true if we make the good choices. So good that we have here today so many people to see how we can make these good choices. And as this, in a last analysis, it has to do all the ESG. And the reason in which everything is so complex, it's because it was so fast that we didn't notice that we got an additional dimension. A while ago, we operated in 3D, three dimensions. Now we operate outside time and space. My daughter is studying in Japan, and I talked to her tomorrow. And it's so weird to talk to someone tomorrow. And this is another dimension outside the time and space. It's creating another world, really another world, a whole new world. We are starting to see a whole new world that is starting to be born, the virtual. So with your person in artificial intelligence, besides the values, it's interesting to think about what is this person going to do, how we are going to design this world of this combination of artificial intelligence and all the interfaces that they just go beyond us because they are capable to operate outside the dimensions of time and space. This is a marvelous thing from one side, and everything that's so powerful has two sides, because it's also the first time that it has a technology that is capable to decide by itself and to create itself. So it's very important that we operate based on principles of ethics and values to see what we are going to do with this other dimension and this other world. Futurists, they look far. They see far, see the whole. And we also use the tools of the economical, the macro history. And I'm not going to explain this because it's another presentation, but we can study the cycles, the historical cycles of change. We can know what's happening because when we change the network pattern, we also have some changes in different cycles. When we have a change in the power relations, or when we have expansion or concentration of richness, of wealthy, we also have a change. When we have a common transition, we start to go back to the common goods. So there are moments with more focus in institutions, cooperatives, etc. And also the generational cycles. We know the generation by the names, the millennials, the baby boomers, etc. But it's a study of cycles that work as if they would be seasons. That's also an alternance between the moments of more individualism and more collective spirit. And it's going fast because it's difficult to explain everything. And now when we have limits of growth, it's not possible in a finite globe, planet, to grow infinitively. And also the economical cycles that we have to understand how it happens. And there's a notion that the systems to be sustainable, they have to be hybrid. One day I'm going to tell you all of this in more detail. But what interests us of all this is because it's a series of studies, besides the futurist studies, that show what we already know, that we are in a transition as we had before. Why they never had before? Because rarely in history you had a confluence of all these cycles. Sometimes we have a cycle in a period, another cycle in another period. Now it's everything at the same time. Now, so what are we going to see? Okay, hold yourself, because from now to 2026, we're going to have turbulence. We have to navigate in the turbulence. This turbulence has a difficult aspect and a positive aspect because it's the result of the reaccommodation, reallocation of things. And let's hope we see each other in 2027, and let's see if in 27 the world is not going to be more different than what we imagine it's possible.
The next few years, we'll see more change than we have seen up to now. we can feel that. The thing is, it's also something that is cliché. We can see that as an opportunity or as a crisis. How is it an opportunity? I see here this beautiful material of yours. Okay, if this makes sense with my futurist lenses, this will all fit together. So I knew already what I wanted to exchange with you, to show you, and I was looking at whether it fit together. The first thing, to be able to work for the future, we need to have systemic action vision. We are having some problems throughout the world because we have come from a period in history where everything was very separated in silos, in the compartments, and actually things are integrated. They belong to one same system where you have a central part and a peripheral part that actually belong to the same thing that is always in a flow. This is a torus, this is a basic form of nature. And what happens with the system? If I work only with one aspect, I will work only on technology or in innovation or in the financial results, the system gets deformed and resists. And when I stop making an effort, it goes back to its original shape. So to be able to change the system, and by this I mean everything, a family, a company, a city, a country, a forest, I have to change everything at the same time. And this is beautiful to see in what you showed now, that you already have this systemic integrated vision of the system. So what else? The world is extraordinarily complex, and to deal with complex, we have to make things easier, less complex. There's no point in making things more complex. This is where I created this method that Mari mentioned. How can we see the system as a whole in a simple way? We need a compass. A compass has two coordinates. The first one is the obvious one, is tangible, the material things with a problem. Tangible things have an end, therefore they lead to competition. And we have another coordinate, which is intangible: culture, values, digital things, everything that is infinite and may generate collaboration. When we combine the two coordinates, we have those 4 points. We try at the basis of this method that I observed. I did not create it. That to be able to observe this, we would need to have the 4 things: the cultural dimension, which is where everything starts, like a seed, then the environmental aspect, which is like an infrastructure. It's not just nature. Then the social dimension, which is the sewing, doing together, evolving together, that has to do with management. And when this happens, we have the other dimension, which is the financial one, which is the result, the fruit that results from this. I started working on that, always thinking about these 4 dimensions, because then we would be able to work simultaneously on everything that has to do with the system. And we are able to have integrated and interdependent solutions. Let's look at them, these 4 dimensions. First, in culture, we have education, culture, spirituality, human development. In environment, we have everything that is linked to structure, technology, sustainability. In the social, we have institutions, communication, public authorities, the networks, collective powers. And in finance, we have all the financial system, and investments, business, management. And seeing things in 4D allows us to see whether everything is there, because normally there's a whole. There are many things that in the culture, but is not present in the social or in environmental. So I decided to make an exercise and look at the event today, and we have the 4 dimensions. So in the 4 speeches we had, you saw that present. So when things are well structured, it will be complete in the 4 dimensions. And an observation. Who had heard about a futurist speaking first? Raise your hand. So I would say there is no chances to understand everything I'm going to say. This is why I'm here, especially to poke you, bring in a new repertoire, and then go deeper in. So let's go slowly. So if you say, no, it's not way, it can't be. This is why the futurists come here, and this is what we're good at. So looking at all those cycles of change, what are the macro forces that mold the future? I selected 2 things by dimension that will be what determines the way things take place, and I will bring a suggestion for each one of them, relating that to your values, because when I checked things out, okay, let's see if the values are there. Yes, they're there. So first thing, the climate and environmental crisis, and there's no way you cannot take that into account. The second one, these other worlds that we will have, we're operating in a different direction that is above us, operating in the digital world. From the financial standpoint, we will see economical change that precedes political change. It's already taking place. We already have digital coins. Look at the speed of the bits. And you can see other values beyond what is a traditional coinage. And the digital world will allow this to be done. One of the great new monies or currencies are data, which are a huge treasure. And to deal with all that, you need new metrics to evaluate things. And this is a new way to measure values, values that are not exclusively in currency. A change in political models. This is dramatic. This is going to take place, and you can see that very clearly. What we are going through is a transition process, a resistance process, because it's not a matter of ideology, a matter of people. It's a matter of organizational structure that is no longer adequate when it was in the past. So the problem is we have to get ready for that, and large organizations have a major role to play in that. So we have to think, where are we going? And so that this change can take place, we need governance that can take care of the whole. The last crisis that we had that was huge, in the First and Second War and the Spanish flu, and led to the creation of the United Nations and a set of new policies to take care of the whole. At the moment where we are in a moment where it is again necessary, where the institutionality and new standards will gain more force, more strength. And we need a new mental model and an organizational model that is based on COO. Let's see how this works. What are the threats? The largest threats that we have to face: first, mental health and polarization, which is terrible. Let's see how we can deal with that. First thing, in the environmental issue. When we create futures, we create what we wish for. look at what would be the ideal of life in the 1930s. A bubble, doesn't matter the amount of energy you are spending, but the same creation of futures can lead to this, which is to imagine solar heating for the same function. So what kind of future are we creating for our environment? We have a key and a challenge. The network is dematerialized. It is outside of time and space, and it can be exponential. But we, the Earth, the time, are not. So this is why we face this challenge that we now face. On the one hand, you have something that flies away, it is exponential, and on the other hand, you have a linear capacity to respond. Who here is feeling this anguish of not being able to follow the speed of things, not being able to follow all messages, not being able to tick everything that has to be done? Raise your hand. So we are not ready, but we have to be, because there is no turning back. We will have to be able to respond to the exponential challenge so it can turn into an opportunity and not a problem. And that's where your purpose comes together, the evolution together, because the key to all of this is convergence. It's probable that the new political model will be something similar to coordination. In 15 days, I will be going to Istanbul, and I will think about new futures and a meeting in France. Then I will have 2 weeks that will be in Istanbul, as I said first, with the creator of Ethereum, which is one of blockchain platforms, where the idea is to think about what coordination can be, a new model of governance that is able to coordinate these different parts. What do we need to achieve this? We already have one part, which is technology, and the other one, it's the other one you talked about. It's the COO, from courage, of collaboration, of confidence in the trust in the others, convergence, all the COOs you can think of. What happened in 2008? The economic crisis made economic giants come up. They were able to converge data in Google, in infrastructure, Uber, Airbnb, or markets like Google, Amazon. And these giants now will be the giants of COO, zero connection for collaboration. They will be able to connect skills, time, accept resources, and do that. And I can see the purpose and see, okay, oh, there's a problem here. And this is the whole idea. There is the issue of together and technology and the part of liberty. Let's see how this takes place with regard to one of the values that you raised, that's think big. This is an example that I think is fantastic of thinking big. We digitalize 2 million books a year. Let's think about that. There is a book that is just a picture that is not digitalized. And you know the captchas, the 4 little letters that we use to show that we're not a robot? Each false letter is a piece of a book that collectively we produce, and this gives 2 million books a year. So you can imagine when we broaden that to everything that artificial intelligence and virtual environments can offer us. One of the great challenges of the COO evolving together is that we are unable to feel the collective. How can you feel a company that is present in many countries with many, many million people participating and using its services? The only way is through artificial intelligence and eventually using those virtual environments such as the metaverse as an example of being able to feel these broad contact. And if I were a resident in the world, which I am, the first thing that I would do would be to use these two great innovations to be a part of the brain, this nervous system that is able to feel the whole, to perceive the cities, the world, the planet. So let's think about a large yes, but without replacing the human. When we think about artificial intelligence as a replacement for humans, it's reducing it to its worst aspect. The best thing is that it does things that we are unable to do, such as visualizing a whole number of data and large amounts, as if it were a social brain. Let's raise another dimension, the social one. This change in a political model and organizations that can take care of the whole. This is our capacity to evolve together in the world. Where you have 11, you have 10 paths. How can we solve that? So desperate with this integration, because when I think of bringing together, I've been doing that for 5 years. It's the opposite. Everyone is separated from the others. And I ask myself, what's happening here? There is this historian, Alfragus, who created a metaphor which I think is incredible, the tower and the square. And he started looking for the internet in the square and how suddenly it changed its function. It became a tower. And I looked at that. Okay, a tower and a square are an excellent way to represent two ways of managing things. The square is the center. It is distributed. The tower is centralized. The square is resilient, and the tower is efficient. So one works with the community, and the other one, it works with technology. Why is it resilient? Because it works on relationships, and resistant because it works with data. One works with relationships, and the other infrastructure. The other one is focused on the collections, and the other in results. One is based on singularity and what everyone has that is important with regard to social issues, and the other one needs to standardize to be efficient. One is focused on the intangible, the other on the tangible. One is focused on some areas of the company, the other one to others, like financing and logistics. When we look at those two sets that during the history of mankind have fought one another, and there are the moments in history when you have a square and moments in history when you have the tower. Does it make sense? Is there any that is better than the other? Is one that can dispense with the other? Everything that sometimes we see as something that is opposite is actually a complement. You can see those two lists, and you can see parties or ways of acting and doing things. So the key that we have is to stop the fight between the tower and the square and integrate both, overcoming barriers of what separates us and looking at what brings us together. So this depends on education. So maybe education in the future will be something in which, where instead of studying details of grammatics, we will be able to study consequences and choices.
And this is going to allow us to innovate the governance models and the norms. I will tell you that the great challenge of the futurist are the norms that need to be redesigned. You must face this in your daily lives, in your routine. And we need to search for models that integrate the tower and the square without complicating, because the tendency when things get complex is to raise bureaucracy, red tape. Please don't do it, because it's not possible to control the complex with a lot of bureaucracy. So when we get to this stage, we reach a better governance. And a better governance is the key to have better results. How can we work with a better governance? First of all, to have a good use of the data, having these new metrics of assessment, evaluation, and having our radar this issue of the economical changes. To deal with data, look at this. Each one of the circle, like if it were the hours or the activities of the day, the dots, they are us. And we started sleeping, and then the dots are going to show during the day in the many activities what is happening. This is to understand the whole. You have an amount of data that is absolutely extraordinary. You know about the nations, the cities, etc., more than the governments. How could we understand more the systems? And inside an organization, how can we see all the flows? So one of the things that also is one of the keys for this moment when we comprehend all these flows is to understand that resource is not only the currency. This is going to happen each day more in this economical change. Solar energy is being transformed in currency. The value is given by the reputation. When you want and you already are, you almost, this is my operator, right? I forgot to say. It has always been my operator. When you say to have the preference of people, it's reputation, cultural value. So there are many resources besides the monetary one, and we have to use them. But the main thing, and that's what we do, is to generate results besides the monetary, because that's what gives value to the company. It's not only the recipe, but how it does, with who, for whom. So the simple way is to ask for each thing that we do, if we are optimizing and generating more in each of the dimensions, generating more in the cultural, in the environmental, in the social and financial. And we get to this value of generating inclusion, because what is important to remember those studies of the cycles that I mentioned, in many of them, revolutions happen, and revolutions happen not in nice way in the majority of things because of the social inequalities. We don't want violence. So it's better that we solve this problem before. So this image is the image that made me become futurist in 95. I was in a presentation by Hazel Henderson, one of the first economists, futurists. She's incredible. And she showed this pie saying, we consider that economy is only the top, the upper half. Private sector, public sector, and informal legal economy is not seen. But there is an immense economy that is not computed, economy that is from nature, and everything that is called complementary economy. For example, the care economy, the economy of care. In Spain, they measured in Madrid, the GDP of the cities, if it included the care, children care, elders care, the GDP would double. And this is going to happen. We are going to see better this pie in more detail. So one of the keys to reach all of this is to consider resources and results, beyond the monetary. This is going to happen. And let's hope that you're thinking on how to get to use this, because with the blockchain, this is possible. And this is going to grow immensely, the SSG and the governance. That's where we generate value, because the value of a company depends on its results 4D, not only monetary. And finally, the last of the elements is the one that is not in the ESG. The culture is always out, even if it's the most strategical one. So in a while, we're going to have ESGC, because people are the key of all of this, because this new mental and organizational model and this issue of mental health that needs to be approached. So how can we work this cultural change? What's the main cultural change? If I were the president of the world, that I was saying, the first thing I would do is to do campaigns to work this, organize campaigns to work this. This is evolution, to evolve together, to evolve together. Evolution is this: atoms, they get together, molecules, they go to tissues, organs, organisms, cells, and the same thing happens in the societies. But what's the issue here? We are operating at the moment as cells that don't know that is part of a body. People, organizations, managers, thinking about the part and not the whole. And this is not sustainable, because when you have a cell that is not thinking about the whole, what happens? This S curve, so nice, it goes up and up and up. Truly, it reveals as a curve in the form of a bell, where you see only what is growing, going up and going down. And going down, why? Because they didn't think about the whole. Inside a body, this is very clear. The cell that only thinks about itself, the body calls cancer. And that's not what we want. And the first thing that it's important is to have this notion of cells and organism. And it's very funny, because I was a very strange and weird child. I still am a weird adult. And I was always thinking, if the cell of my elbow had an idea, who was Lala? Who was Brazil, the world? And we are kind of the cell of my elbow, without understanding very well what body, in which body we are in. So, client in the first place, yes, but there is another great client here, which is the word. So I wish that all the canvas in this side put the final client, and the final client, which is the word. Is it possible? It's not only possible, but necessary, because otherwise we're not going to have future. We have the same capacity to solve everything very rapidly, or of not making the good choices and not solve everything. Ival Haraiva is a genius. He made a study. It was a time as 22. Is it possible to prevent the climatic disaster? 2% of the global GDP. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Is it? We waste 2.4 of the GDP in food and 10% of the GDP in tax evasion. So what is it possible to make it possible? First of all, to consider the part and the whole in each choice. Individual, company, governmental. We have to think about the part and the whole. It's because of this that we are in a crisis. And it's a lot more difficult to imagine these changes of mentality than to imagine technology. Check that this is the half of the 19th century. There is a technology. We have, the high-speed train. But look at what we have in the corner. Enslaved children. We imagine technologies, but we don't imagine new mentalities and organizations, and we must have both at the same time. Technology design and new relations design, mentality design, design of structures and organizations. So how does it start? Having trust, having confidence in people and in the future. This is the perspective of the future created in one of the labs. It's the personal truster. Haven't we the personal trainer to get stronger? So this is the personal trust. I wish that each company has a lot of personal trusters because the greatest challenges are cultural. And as the technology advances, we need to advance in ethics and more artificial intelligence, more human intelligent development of consciousness. And this change of mentality is the key. How do we do it? Being protagonist. Do you remember that we started with the possible futures? The futures. So I'm going to ask you to raise your right arm and to imagine a probable future. Keep the right one. Raise the left one and imagine the desirable future. If the probable and the desirable, they are the same, you put your hands together. If they are different, you open your arms. Okay. So we have just proven that the desirable is probable because all of us desire something different from what we think probable. So let's do it. The desirable future is possible. And to conclude, we have knowledge, technology, and resource. Let's do it now. Thank you very much. Very good, Lala. So good to hear you. Thank you very much. I'm always looking at the messages that we are receiving. We have more than 2,000 people following the Team Talks experience, and also the ones that are in the hot site and the YouTube. A lot of people commenting. A lot of comments. Lala's panel, always creative, inspiring, the great think big, and in the hot site, there's a lot of people talking about what we just heard. Tatiana, very nice panel, very good, excellent analogy, Tatiana. A kiss to everyone that is watching us. We're going to have a 15-minute break for the ones that is following online. Just grab a glass of water, and we're going to be back in 15 minutes.
Bom, vamos voltar então aqui agora, depois do cafezinho, da
Let us
comidinha,
begin
todo mundo já
again after
preparado para a
our
próxima
small
parte.
coffee
Eu
break
sento
with
aqui,
lots of
né, gente?
treats.
Nesse cantinho aqui.
I think I sit
Porque, como
here
vocês viram, a
in
gente
this
está com o
little
nosso palco
corner
pouco diferente, porque a gente vai
because, as you
receber
can
agora
see,
não
we
só mais
have
um
our
convidado, mas
stand that
4
is a little
convidados
different.
aqui,
We will
para a gente continuar o
welcome
Team
4
Talks
guests
2023.
to
Olá para todo mundo
keep
que está
on with
online também,
our
se vocês estão
team
assistindo no nosso
talks.
site da Team Talks
And
ou
we'll
no
keep
YouTube
also
da
being
Team
online
Brasil.
if you are
Continuem
seeing the
acompanhando.
site
Inclusive,
or
podem mandar mensagem, que eu
YouTube
tô de olho
from
aqui
to
no que vocês
Brazil.
estão falando com a gente, tá
And
bom? A gente
you
tá
can
aqui,
follow
a gente tá aí
us
também.
up here.
Bom, vamos então agora para
So
os
let
momentos mais
us
esperados, que
move
é o
on
painel,
to
né?
one
Que a
of the
gente
most
tem convidados
expected
e
moments
convidadas.
in
Vamos
which
logo
we have our panel
apresentar todos
with
aqui,
4 guests who
começando
will
com ele, que
introduce
é
now.
VP de Assuntos
I will
Regulatórios
start
e
with the
Institucionais da
VP
Team
from
Brasil.
Regulatory
Lidera a agenda
Institutional
ESG na
Topics
companhia
of
e também é presidente
Brazil
do
from
Instituto
Team. He's
TIM,
also
Mari
chairman
Palma.
of the Team Institute.
Bem-vindo, Mari. Pode ficar à vontade.
Welcome.
A gente continua
And
agora com
we will
a diretora de
now
Advertising,
call
Media,
the
Brand
director
Management,
of
responsável
and
pela
brand
identidade da marca
manager
TIM, lá
that
na
is in
experiência na
charge
área,
of the
passou por
team
outras
brand,
empresas
which is
multinacionais,
who has
nossa
experience in other large corporations. Mayra Castro. And welcome Camila. Now, I'm sorry. And now we'll have our expert in sustainability, social accountability, and ESG. He has over 25 years experience, and he's the author of over 10 books on these markers, Nakagawa. And to wrap up our teams of guests, she's the founder of Invest Amazonia, designer of connection partnerships with a master in Europe through the University of Geneva, Mayra Castro. So, how are you doing? Welcome to our site here now. You have no chance of feeling dizzy because we're all sitting in a fixed seat. I remember that everyone is seeing us online can send questions as well. Because you can see us on site on Team Talks and YouTube Brazil. I would like you to introduce yourselves for those who are here on site and for those who are, I don't know you yet, Mario Dinasolo. I'm the manager, you can see by my accent. I've been working for the team group for 27 years, 20 in Brazil, and I'm very happy to be here, which is the cherry on the cake of a very long journey when we had the opportunity to talk. And I would like to thank the other guests for their presence and my partners, Camila. Good afternoon, I'm Camila. Nice to meet you. I am a woman with short hair, dressing in blue, which is one of my favorite colors, and bring luck. I've been for 13 months in the company, and I love it. Hello, everyone. I'm Marcus Nakagawa, also known as Trophy Marcus. And you must, yes, I've been interviewed a few times, Prof. Naker, and I'm Japanese. I come from the Asian continents. I have very little hair. I have a short beard. I'm wearing a suit to celebrate the occasion. I'm a university professor in accountability, and I've been studying that topic and working in several companies, including with TIM. And it was called TIM Working on Schools. And it's a pleasure to be here for this event. Good afternoon, everyone who is present here and also online. I am a black woman with a light skin. I have a short hair I'm dressed in white with a blue shirt. I'm a Brazilian from the Northeast, And I love Brazil. One of the things I love most, because is the culture. One of the aspects that most calls my attention is that we can all be Brazilians. We all have different profiles. We have people who are very different here. Italian with a Brazilian heart, I'm sure, but the others are Brazilian. And I have this passion for my work wherever I go. And my career, obviously, has been for different perspectives. I've been working for nuclear science, science for the innovation of science. Then I decided to go home to Brazil and to lay down my roots. And before leaving Brazil, I wanted to come back here and be in our country. Mayra, you said that you have a global trajectory. You have seen the world and different markets. What are the values, social, environmental, have you seen in this trajectory that bring together companies? What do they have in common in this engagement? All the markets and have their modus operandi, MO, and their peculiarities, but there are values that are universal, such as the ones that we are talking about today: care, responsibility, or accountability, and learning. You can see that everything that we take care of will prosper and grow. And there is something interesting in care because it does you good. So to answer your question, I think this value is universal, regardless of the sector or the country. Responsibility. We can only take care when we become responsible for something. There is a sentence from Napoleon who says, behind all diversity or difficulty, there is a seed of opportunity. Because when you become responsible, you stop focusing on the problem and you find solutions. And there is a learning as well, because we're all going through a trajectory of learning. We have a model of society, if you come to think of it, in which we pass on to nature the cost of our actions. When we send our garbage away, we don't know what happens to it, but there is not just our society in the world. Other societies exist and where you can learn as well. One of the things that I observe in this trajectory is the need to exchange experiences, because sometimes we are in a little box, in our little company, our little square, and we look outside. There is an opportunity for innovation, and I think this is extremely important. Next year, I will be curator for an SEG event, and one of the suggestions I did was to think about networking, not in a content, but precisely on the building of experience. And one of the things that I identified is that in the north of the country, you cannot separate environmental issues from social ones. They are not dissociated, they are together. And then we can think about something. When we look at the history of Brazil, from the native people, we know that in the north of Brazil, they managed to have very well-structured societies. They lived in correlated social and environmental. What can we learn from that? And I would like to share better what I have learned in my reality, my trajectory, living abroad, living São Paulo. I went back to Belém, but I live also in a riparian community, and in it, the river is the street, and when you have the gathering, the people cut down the palm trees that are no longer useful, and so that new ones grows, and they take the revenue from that because they take on the palm heart. But what is in common, and we can think in what I observe, is the desire to make a difference, to make something different. And you can see that when we reach that kind of moment, we always ask how. But there are two other questions that are very important. Why and what? So how, for instance, let us think about holidays. How am I going to take my holidays? So it's important when they ask why it's very important, because it is the last before one thing, because it may rain cats and dogs, but you won't give up on your holidays, but because there is the similarity of what you're going to do. And I'd like to share 3 trends that may be helpful in this context. The first one is that increasingly people talk about the market in a general way, and the use of technology and innovation for sustainability and impact. Let's talk about the internet. The internet is so powerful that maybe we don't realize it because it's quite common and people are used to it now throughout the world. And I will give you a very practical event. I can only be here now, today, because there is the internet. And I saw the impact, the evolution of the internet in my community. Because when I went there first, there was no internet. And now there is, but in the beginning, you had to wait for a boat to pass on, so it would take you wherever it could. And now you can call one, so we can see that economically it has a huge impact. The use of technology is fundamental for the improvement of life, for the environment of society and the environment and society. Another thing, I don't know that if you have heard about it, I use the word biometric, but I heard they're using the word eco-innovation, which is learning from nature. And we have examples that are quite close to us and that we don't even notice. Velcro, for instance. Velcro is a summary of nature. Someone observed, a scientist observed, and transformed this in a product that is an excellent product that is very profitable. The speed trains, they observed one bird that was moving from one point to the other, and he was able to solve the problem of the sound made by the speed train. And these are inspiring, but the most inspiring one is what I learned now. I learned from an entrepreneur in Amazon, and he talks about mindful development, which is divided in 4 pieces. One is to be ecologically correct, and this word is are we taking care of our house, of our planet, of our city? And I think this is very interesting. Being socially fair as well. That's the second point. Are we being fair to our environment? And of course, economically viable or feasible. But you have a 4th element, which is thinking about things that will be culturally acceptable. Because when we have a basis of culture, we have to be accepted. When we talk about someone from another country, we know the culture, we inevitably will create connections. I went to once give a talk in Nagasaki, and we talk about nuclear power. And I wondered why they called me, because I came from an entirely different context. And there is one means to connect, which is regardless of culture or anything or connection. It is using words. And I'm using here a very basic example to show you the power that culture has.
Marcos or Prof. Naka, you are a researcher, speaker. We were talking there in the backstage, and we were talking that sometimes we reject the subject and the topic without even starting to talk about it. And you have the role to talk about this in the companies as a change factor to show that sustainability can also mean transformation and also to raise the competitive status. So what do you think the condition of the Brazilian companies and the greatest challenge? I think that the greatest challenge and most important is that the company needs to put this topic not as something, oh, another thing to be done, you know, the checklist that we have a notebook that you just go there and tick, tick. And you're going to have many topics. And now we're going to have the topics related to the social, environmental, governance, culture topics, as it was presented here today. So each day more inside the organizations, this is going to be part of the daily lives. Apart the managers, the ones that have some leadership, you have a word summit, a budget. And it's there in the table sheet how much you can spend a year, a month, and you have the budget for the next year. Everyone works the same way. And what happens? The ESG and all the topics that were well presented here, it's going to start being part of this checklist. It's not an area only. It belongs to everyone, of all the managers, all the leaderships. And it's also going to be part of the topics of evolution of the organization, development, and also, of course, the stockholders, they are going to demand these topics, and it's going to be part of the system. I like to tell this story about these problems of the pandemics. A lot of people started making bread during the pandemic. So they started selling bread, selling cakes, carrot cakes with chocolate, the one I prefer. And they used to sell to this one, and they call a friend, hey, my niece, help me to promote my cake. So the nephew went there, put in the WhatsApp, put in the internet, and the cake started selling more. Okay, created a marketing department. And we go there and created the marketing. Dona Maria had the marketing department, and she wanted only to pay the bill. So Miss Maria started to mix. Okay, the money from the cakes, the money from the houses, and Dona Maria asked another nephew. Another nephew is going to take care of the finances, to separate the things of the house, the things of the company. So Dona Maria started to create the financial department. She managed to do things better. So Dona Maria hired two cousins of hers because we were really needing to work. So the two cousins started to make the cake, to wait the cake, and the cake was wrong, came wrong. Right? So Dona Maria created the quality department, almost ISO 9000, and created a department related to the human resources because she needed to pay people and the taxes and everything. And a client called and said, hey, Dona Maria, you're killing the turtles. And she said, I'm killing the turtles? Why? Oh, Dona Maria, you have a lot of plastic. Plastic here, plastic in the cake, plastic there, and here. Are you recycling? Do you take care of the energy you're spending? Do you have energy platforms? And Dona Maria, oh my God, how am I going to do that? So she started to take care of the environmental issues. So Dona Maria discovered that in the community around her, there were some boys that were there on the streets doing wrong things in the neighborhood. Dona Maria said, I'm going to start a social project. Let's call these boys. Let's give them work, partnership with the institutions. And Dona Maria started the ESG in her company because of the stockholders' demand, that wasn't her case, or demands connected to the society issues. And this is the greatest difficulty, to understand which of these points are you already doing. You just need to catalog, to show, to tell that you're doing. And then you're going to see that after the two wonderful presentations, I feel like I have so many things to tell in my classrooms. And you know how much the company has. And the great difficulty, of course, maybe is to educate people, because Dona Maria was learning by herself. But the great companies can capacitate people with this beautiful event, for example, that we are having here today, to capacitate and to teach about this topic. It's not only to embrace a tree or to kiss a monkey and take care of children. No, it's also management. It has to do, as we saw, with this, with management, as we saw here. It's so beautiful. He is really in love with this subject. So we can see today that TIM has a very important trajectory in the ESG to contribute to the desirable futures. But these desirable futures need the effort of people and organizations. So tell us how TIM is contributing for these desirable futures and how would be them? How would it be this desirable? I think that the question is extremely open, and the last presentation of Lala, brilliant and challenging, which I disagree with half of the things, but mainly because I disagree, it means that we stop to think. The word desirable or possible futures in the plural is to think about makes us think about the future as a real hook, but to think together about this. This thinking together leads us to the ESG journey that we see in TIM. It started when ESG, these initials didn't even exist. We have some memories of 15 years ago when we started our journey. 15 years that TIM is part of the Global Pact and also try uh, to diminish and to mitigate the effects of pollution and etc. But wasn't born as history, it's born as consciousness, awareness. And we now can say that we have some stories to tell and to share. And it was concretized in a specific area, ESG, when this acronym it was starting to be known in the sustainability sector. So during the pandemics, of course, we had these thematics as top, and we were more prepared. We had an awareness that was part of revolution, Copernican revolution for this ESG. What's the difference of things? Is it a micro semantics? No. I believe that when we talk about sustainability in the previous decades, we're talking about movements to correct negative externalities produced by business. When we enter a business and ESG is talking about resources, people, and behavior, and governance. Every business is made of resources, person, and behaviors. And we are talking about the essence of the business. We're saying if the business is well fed, right? Or if it can generate positive externalities. Maria Antonietta has said, and we didn't talk before, it's very interesting when two persons of the same company enters the same vibe without talking before. The definition of ESG is a lot more negative. It's not that ESG is very important to define where the consumer is going to land. ESG is not something that you buy, it's not something that you improvise, and it's not something that can be ended. It's not bought because culture cannot be bought. It comes from far away, pre-culture phase, that you don't even know that you're creating a culture. We did that at that time. So culture is not possible to be improvised because the fact of being here and the team talks talking about this, it's because 10 years ago it was unimaginable to be here. We are here because everybody here believes. It's evident that there are areas that treat less or more, but it's a topic that the company incorporated, metabolized. And to metabolize a culture is not something that you do it from one day to the other. So, and it's never possible to end this process. We can never say, oh, I got to the top of my ESG potentiality, social potentiality. It always continues without barriers because there's no end. We can always imagine possibilities. And when we are imagining possibilities, we don't imagine desires, we imagine possibilities. A French philosopher says, man thinks what it's possible, what he can, not what he wants. So in our journey, we try to put into practice what we thought it would be relevant. And as a company is a juridical person, a legal person, and he buys, it buys beliefs, and it has its beliefs in the DNA, the company becomes political. Political because it takes care of the policy. It's not activitas of the state. So the company, they really will have to put themselves and express what they consider their beliefs. And you know that our absolute belief on diversity, inclusion, the use of energy, the impact of the digital business, they are pillars on which to which we have to be catalyzers of a certain dynamics, because we are business and we have to have this responsibility, and we are a political actor, political in a good sense. That's what we try to build, and this is always a starting point. That's where we want to start from, and this team talks is a very brilliant way to reflect and to express about our express our awareness and consciousness. So Camila, talking about the companies, we can see that the marks, the brands, they are positioning themselves and putting into practice actions, thinking about the society and the environment. I'd like you to talk a little bit about the brand team and how it can engage each day more with the system in which it relates to collaborators, clients, stakeholders, stockholders, etc. So to start, we have a paradigm that there is the mark, the brand, and there is the ESG, but it's not. We have a unique thing. And also another paradigm that the ESG doesn't generate a brand value. I saw an article of the Future Brands this week. They say that the most important and valuable brands is what they are trying to gather their values and with practices of environment, social. So the brand is transformed in connection with the consumer, and we live in a society in which the consumer is each day more critical he's going, this consumer is going to enter your business and is going to consume because he is connected with your values and your beliefs. So ESG is a construction of a brand value. How do we turn it into narratives? And how do we express this to the consumer? How do we do it at team? It starts with a value, but ESG is transversal. It's plugged with everything that we do. Intersectionality is what makes the difference. What he was saying, that we have very clear goals of female equity, and women's equity, and that is really exported. I have to communicate with the society. I have to reflect the society in which I'm in. So intentionally, I'm going to have a diverse campaign, a cash into film, that it's a diverse men, women, races, LGBTQIA+, because when people see that, they connect, generate value, build a brand. It's like we're saying, this brand is talking to me. This is to build the brand in a deeper way, not superficial. So this is a journey. The intentionality is very important because alone you cannot do it. You have to be connected to all your peers, business peers, and you have, for example, if you have a project with Gerando Falcons, you are transforming future, and this future is going to impact you, and these people can be your consumers. They're going to recommend you. They're going to generate brand value, and it's going to generate more possible futures. When you talk about women's equity and you talk about this positive aspect, labor market inclusion, having more women present there in the labor market, this generates more consumption, more brand value, and more connection. So when we understand the construction of the ESG in this way, in a transversal way, and everything we do must be based on the insertion and inclusion, I think it's going to be different. Yes, it's from the door in, not from the door out. I work with an entertainment company. We see so much diversity in films, in movies, in series, in the cast, but also in the backstage, because you're not going to tell a story of a group that you're not part of. So you really have to have hours from the net to the door in, not only the discourse from the door out. So let's talk about innovation, Mario, and technology. When you say that the main deliver that team gives to people is the technology. How can technology contribute to a better future? Thinking about the futures that we have. I just would like to tell people that is following us online. It's not, sometimes I'm going to get my cell phone and my mobile, but it's not because I'm not being polite. Okay, it's because I'm following all the comments that we have online. Okay. So talking about technology is effectively an advantage. When you talk about technology, connection with a work proposal, this has a possibility to aggregate the positive externalities that we mentioned. Giving you an example that truly is part of a sector that effectively has a lot more complexity. We'll never have the embarrassment to put there something, for example, in a gas station, for example, gas carbon zero. This is a way of occupying a territory that doesn't belong. It's an appeal that doesn't work. It could work 20 years ago. Gas is fundamental, but the path to turn the gas for a fossil fuel is a lot more complex than the gas carbon zero. So I'm talking about the sector that was that allowed with our 4G that's well developed here in Brazil. So people were able to stay at home, to work at home during pandemics. So it's very clear that today, for example, a lot of meetings, they just happen online. And each of these meetings, it's a trip that was not made. If you want to calculate the environmental impact of the trips that we avoid, for having the habit of the video conference, it's gigantic, this impact, but it's a fact. I was talking with Alberto, that we became a digital factory that made viable connectivity, 6 million acres. Not only they are people, they are children, they are adults. We are connecting a whole humanity that is in that field. And also for being the first company that at the end of this year is going to cover with the 4G all the municipalities in Brazil. This has a business sense, meaning, but also a possibility, a meaning of possibilities. I took an extraordinary trip together with other companies and of Anatel in the Amazon, in the northwest. And I was in a hospital, Nova Havana. We were there, we arrived with the helicopter of the army. Or you arrive with the army helicopter, or you're going to take days by boat. So the proud that I had to see the doctor at the hospital, to perform a video consultation with someone from another city, that with my 4G that had more than 30 megas per second. At that moment, at that day, we are making a difference on the life of a person. So I think this is multiplied by the demands and possibilities of here Brazil, of all here in Brazil. We can have a gigantic difference.
And I will tell you something about things that we can improve. I can tell you how many times we confuse inclusion and equality. Those are two different things. We are in touch with this hospital because there was a requirement, which was to create an island with nets for the native population. From what I learned, the native population don't go to the hospital to take care of themselves because they are not used to staying in beds. They are sleep in nets. So we had to build something that would be to include diversity and this is respected, and include does not mean erasing diversity. We are working precisely on this obstacle, and it has nothing to do with the digital world. So in Brazil, you have several aspects that I loved, and so the knowledge is a source of wealth, and once again, our capacity to connect digitally the houses is our vocation. Mario, I have a message that we just received from Humberto Napolitano, and he said this is a very good story. The history of TIM is a history of commitment since the dawn of civilization to now, and TIM was always an innovator. So this is quite cool. There are other messages, and I will read them between the questions. I would like to talk to Mayra to connection now, not connectivity. And what we know that what we say here, that everything starts from the collective body, and you use your experience throughout the world to connect people, to build projects that will make a difference to people, to the environment, and to the future. So what's the importance of these projects that you create for the future? I think the first main point is this history of connections, the story of connections. It destroys barriers to connect people. When you bring down the barriers, the possibility of connection are endless. And one thing that I understand is how we create a collective alchemy to generate impact. And that's the challenge I face in my work. How can I build a team that will have something that is so large, that will achieve this level of excellence in impact? I understand a few things. 3 parameters. First, the mission has to be quite clear, and it has to be larger than the sum of the individual interests. And you have to think about the mission that is ahead instead of feeling just about yourself. The other thing is leadership. And I see leadership as a key that is fundamental. It's not above, below, or on the side. It's everywhere. And also the team. When you have a team, results are larger. And I'm very lucky to have people who helped me during my career. And my former head of department said that she was happy to have conditions to work. The rest would be a consequence. And this is precisely what she gave us to work. And I worked with a great deal of pleasure. I wanted to be a diplomat, and I achieved my dream in working in scientific diplomacy with foreign countries. So what happened at a given point in my trajectory, I had to create my own profession, and this was a challenge, because if I tell you today that I'm a connector, and at the time that it didn't make sense. And the problem was, how do I make people understand what I do so that I can be myself professionally? Once again, I had a head of a department, and she told me when I lived in Janeiro, if there is no name for what you want to do, go there and create it. And I created a profession as a designer of partnerships, because I saw that the words put together make a sense to people. People get curious about what you want to talk about. They are intrigued and about what I'm going to do and what I do. And so I thought, how can I create a mechanism that will generate value and result? So I create projects based on ideas. When I understood that we have to connect people to create projects, this is a mission and a method, because how am I going to people get in how do I develop the partnerships? These are things that I learned along the way, and that I share in the things I do, in the spaces where, of course, you need to have common values, which is what is the glue that will bring things together. So I believe the team is at the basis of everything. a team that when it has a clear idea of its mission and what it's about to do, you can create impacts that are unimaginable. And I was looking at the messages. It's incredible how collaborators participate and reinforce what you had just said, both of you, and talking about things internally in the company. And this is a sensitive aspect when you show it to the market. We see many brands talking a lot about not doing things, and consumers that are more demanding that will stop buying those brands because of that. So we have to pay attention not to be these companies that talk a lot and do very little. Well, I think the market does the sums first, and then you do the rest. So you need to have a narrative. It doesn't mean you cannot be vulnerable as a brand and saying that you are doing, walking the walk. Some are ahead of you, some are behind you. And they want to have, if you want to have a leader and be vulnerable, you have to create intentionality. And then you will give the idea of stability. So this is what the main idea when you talk about brands that say they are going to do things in any area and in projects, especially in those in which there is a great deal of superficiality in what they are doing. And we were talking about the role of the leader, how important it is. And I say that we work a lot with thinkers, and we have people that do not think about change as a goal. When not even the day I don't have to ask for something, and it doesn't come, that will come by itself. That will be the day, because normally we have a very important role in the company. When you get into the house of people, when and it's the break during the news, when they are seeing what you do and they think, okay, this person represents me, this brand represents me, and it talks to me. So this responsibility as a social actor, as a company, you pay more attention to what you do and what you propose. And so you can make projects with the methods that you have, Gerando Falcões and other projects, creating futures. When we talk about products thought to help this market and connect it, and all the other projects that we have that are built with this intention, we will do, and then we will share it with the consumer. Marcos, Renata sent you a question saying that she loves you. And I had classes with him in the MDA in Rio Grande do Sul. So you have a fan. And I remind you that we have over 2,000 people following us. So let's talk about the individual. We heard Camila talking about the companies, and you wrote a book, 101 Ways to Change the Futures. We provoke people and provoking young adults to change a little their lives. You researched and worked a lot on this subject. What are the difficulties that people have to implement sustainability in their day-to-day lives, and what are the possibilities that will engage people, that will lead people to choose your cause? This question I was always asked in my classes, oh, that's beautiful, ESG, responsibility, but how can I insert this in my day-to-day? In companies, as we are showing how this is raised, but if you are going to do it in your company and you go home and you start yelling at your children and kicking the dog, it's not linked to the values that you have at home and in the company. So the ideal thing is to have to make changes in your attitude and at home. And I'll give you an example. Who has here taught their children to brush their teeth? I think this is the hardest task in the world. Who thinks this is one of the hardest tasks in the world? Okay, who taught their children to pee in the right place, to flush, and then lower the lid? It's difficult, isn't it? Yes. So these tasks are tasks that during the pandemic, among the death and pain, we learned to put on alcohol gel in our hands, wash our hands, remove our shoes when we came home, learning many things during the pain. So can't we learn from this how you taught your children to brush their teeth and others who do not lower the lid? We will teach people just as we taught our children in the very simple way as just jokes about children pee, but it's exactly the same difficulty and the same task to wash a pot to recycle it, the same difficulty to teach people and train them, the same difficult to communicate to people, how difficult it is to talk to people during the moments of pain or suffering. But now the list has increased again because the evolution of people and the requirements, and thank God we are evolving as human beings, leads us to increase our lists of what to do. And now we have to put the finger to people to learn. It's not ESG washing. And it's not that. It's part of the evolution. We are evolving as human beings, and the companies have to follow up on this. And it also happens in your place. You heard the director and the chairman talking about it. And of those who want, you have that on YouTube, and you have my book on 101 ways to become more sustainable. You can buy the book, and we have to sell our products as well. So excuse me for the joke. Let's now hear Mario talking and watching the future. What are the next challenges and difficulties for all companies, not just team? How companies can help one another. Companies help one another and do help, and not only in the structural parts. Brazil is one of the countries that develop an agency for watching the public policies, because not everything can cover the whole of Brazil, because 4 or 5 companies may risk doing a dual investment in the same thing. So we have built, with the agreement, the shared agreement of mobile access, everything that is done in Brazil, and ends up being very big because of the geography of the country. So we share things. So if we talk about the infrastructure, we must start defining a concept. So everything that is on the network, these are goods that are scarce, and they must be managed because of the finite quality, technically, financially, etc. So all the debate between the relationship between the digital platforms and other technologies in the agenda of how this system can become sustainable. And this is an agenda for the next few years. And we also have other layers that are for the future, that are broader. And there is I will use Lala's speech. Will ESG save the world? And the answer is no. Maybe the answer will be no, because the question is badly asked. ESG is a means to catalyze questions, and the actors, individual actors, corporate actors, players are beginning to ask themselves questions that make sense when we're looking at the future. And we have the ISG tries to solve problems. It's solutionism, and we try to avoid losing things. Let's say the metaverse, what problem does it solve? We started not having the answer that technology could give us. So we must recover this idea of asking the correct question based on what we have. Then we can see a future that will make sense. So ESG is not a catalyzer of answers, but rather a catalyzer of questions, because human being will never be able to fight the AI. The ChatGPT will always know more than you do. But you have to know how to ask the right question. So you have to think about the right questions to children, families, houses, and companies. And in our journey, we started trying to find the journeys that would make sense. And we asked that where, as organization, can we make sense? And we found some places that can give more answers, but it's not a journey that will that is finite. That it's a journey that will stay here.
Okay, the stage 360 shows a little bit of the backstage, and people here can see how much time we have. But there is a gigantic chronometer. At this moment, they say that I have 1 minute. So what am I going to do? I have here my script. This following question and provocation. So based on everything that we talked about here, so trying to synthesize in one sentence, what do you expect to have left as a message? What's the main message in each of of your areas? I think that the main message that I have to leave is the power of connections. To connect with the sectors, connect with the company, connect with your values, the value of your job, your working place. I think that this is the message I'd like to leave. For me, it's always going to be education to have more sustainable days. We need to educate each day more, to teach each day more, like with the examples that I show, to have effectively more sustainable days. For me, it's about proposals and values and to do something in an intentional way. In this sense, intentional sense, for me, it's the three words that we put in our proposal: freedom, respect, and courage. They are not words at random. None of these words exist without the other two. There's no courage without respect and freedom. There's no freedom without the other two, and respect without freedom and courage. So it's between ashes. It's the poetics of the business and the company that we want to develop. So the chronometer disappeared. So I'm going to continue. So I have my last provocation in the last seconds. If we throw the situation to the future, to the next team talks, what evolution do you expect that we are going to be talking about next year? The evolution for next year? This is a challenging question. I think that in one year we can bring results related to what happened in the previous year, to talk about this, to talk about what we can learn, elaborate, and especially celebrate. Sometimes we forget to celebrate. It's worth it to think that we get to a certain point and we have to be remembered. It has to be celebrated, it has to be shared, and next year we can think about the results that we generated along the year. I'm going to this individual. We have the ESG of team, you as an employee, what you're doing about it, and you at home, if you learn to, right, to close your toilet top. So for me, is not to have a presentation on how ESG impacts the future of your brand and how we build brands that creates value to society. And I'd like to have a panel with a lot of big companies telling us team was inspiring. Besides doing everything that we do, we become a great organization with a wrap of inspiration for other big companies, because you're a leader. If you're up to a certain point, you manage to engage the forces, the strength. So I think this is the challenge for next year. Good way to conclude and to wrap up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I have to conclude, but just to stay here with me up till the end. Don't leave the stage. Thank you very much for everyone that is watching online and the hotline and YouTube with Team Brazil. So many messages. I didn't manage to read all of them. But to represent you that's on the other side of the camera, so many people following us. Thank you very much for everyone that is here with us. Thank you, team, for the invitation to learn and to develop the reflection. Let's wait for everyone next year here.